Claire Harrison took a deep breath as the shuttle doors opened. The metal floor beneath her feet was cold and smooth, unlike anything she had ever seen on Earth. Strange lights flickered along the walls in patterns that hurt her eyes if she looked too long. The air smelled different here, clean but empty, like it had been scrubbed of all life. Captain Jake Morrison walked beside her, his blue uniform pressed and perfect. His hand rested near his sidearm, though Claire knew it would be useless here. They were surrounded by technology that could destroy their shuttle with a thought. Still, old habits died hard for military men. "Remember, Jake," Claire whispered as they walked down the long hallway, "we are here to make friends, not enemies." "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied, but his eyes never stopped moving, checking every corner and shadow. "Though I wish we knew more about what we're walking into." The hallway stretched for what felt like miles. Strange windows showed the black of space dotted with unfamiliar stars. Claire could see other ships docked at the station, vessels that looked nothing like human designs. Some were smooth and flowing like drops of water frozen in metal. Others were angular and sharp, covered in spikes and weapons that gleamed in the starlight. Finally, they reached a massive door that split open without a sound. The council chamber beyond took Claire's breath away. It was huge, bigger than any building she had seen on Earth. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them, and the walls curved away in all directions. But it was the aliens that made her heart race. The nearest group looked almost human, but stretched tall and thin like someone had pulled them through a tube. Their skin was see-through, showing veins and organs beneath that pulsed with pale light. These had to be the Zephyrians, their briefing had mentioned. They moved like dancers, every gesture smooth and graceful. Below them sat creatures that looked like giant insects. Their bodies were black and shiny, covered in hard plates that clicked when they moved. 4 arms ended in claws that could probably cut through steel. Their heads were triangular, with huge compound eyes that reflected the chamber's lights like mirrors. The Vraktar, Claire remembered. Hunters from the outer spiral. The biggest aliens took up an entire section of the chamber. They looked like living rocks, gray and rough, with cracks running through their skin that glowed with inner fire. Some were twice as tall as a human, their massive bodies seeming to weigh down the very floor beneath them. The Gorvani, ancient and powerful, older than most species in the galaxy. There were others, too, smaller beings that scurried between the larger groups. Some looked like mice that had learned to walk upright. Others resembled living plants, their green skin shifting and changing as Claire watched. A sound filled the chamber, musical and strange. The tallest Zephyrian had spoken, though no human throat could have made such noises. Small devices attached to Claire's collar translated the words into English. "We gather today to judge the newest species found in our galaxy. Humanity of the Sol System, you stand before us to ask for recognition and trading rights." Claire stepped forward to the speaking platform. She had practiced this speech 100 times during the long journey from Earth. Every word had been chosen carefully by teams of diplomats and scientists. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, "humanity comes before you today in peace. We seek only friendship and cooperation with all species. Our planet Earth offers much to the galaxy. We have art and music, science and literature. We wish to trade knowledge and goods, to learn from your wisdom, and share our own discoveries." As the translators carried her words to the various aliens, Claire noticed something that made her stomach turn cold. Many of the creatures were making sounds that could only be described as laughter. The insect-like Vraktar were clicking their mandibles in rapid patterns. Their compound eyes seemed to sparkle with amusement. The massive Gorvani rumbled deep. In their chests, a sound like distant thunder that shook the floor. Even some of the smaller species appeared to be giggling. Claire continued her speech, speaking of Earth's desire for peace, their willingness to follow galactic law, their hope for a better future among the stars. But the laughter only grew louder. When she finished, the tall Zephyrian spoke again. Your species appears to be remarkably primitive. You have only just learned to travel faster than light. Your planet remains divided into competing nations that fight each other. Your weapons technology is quite amusing. One of the Vraktar delegates leaned forward, its translator crackling with static. They speak of peace while their homeworld still wages wars with chemical explosives and simple metal bullets. How refreshing to meet such an innocent species. Claire felt her face grow hot with anger, but she kept her voice calm. Every species has room to grow and learn. We believe our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Differences? The Zephyrian's laugh was like broken glass. Your people still use gunpowder and nuclear fission. You fight with kinetic weapons and chemical rockets. It is like watching children play with sticks and stones. The chamber erupted in what could only be called cruel laughter. Claire realized with growing horror that this was not a real negotiation. They had already decided humanity's fate before she had even spoken. We propose, the Zephyrian continued, that humanity be granted probationary status. You may establish one small trading post in the outer rim, far from civilized space. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when you have evolved beyond your current limitations, we might reconsider full membership. A Gorvani delegate rumbled something that the translator rendered as, if they survive that long without destroying themselves. This brought fresh waves of laughter from around the chamber. Claire stood frozen at the speaking platform, watching, as the most powerful beings in the galaxy dismissed her entire species as a cosmic joke. Jake Morrison stepped up beside her, his jaw tight with controlled rage. Ambassador, he whispered, we should go. But Claire was not ready to give up. And if we refuse your generous offer? The Zephyrian's expression did not change, but his voice carried new menace. Then you will return to your little star system and stay there. Any attempt to expand beyond your current borders will be met with force. Any development of advanced weapons will result in the complete sterilization of your planet. The threat hung in the air like poison. Claire looked around the chamber at faces that showed no mercy, no compassion, only the cold calculation of predators deciding whether prey was worth the effort to kill. I see, Claire said quietly. Then we accept your terms and will return to Earth to discuss this with our government. Wise choice, the Zephyrian replied. Your species shows promise as laborers and entertainers. We particularly enjoyed your warrior demonstration. Perhaps humans could serve as gladiators in our arena worlds. This brought the loudest laughter yet. Claire turned and walked toward the exit, Jake close behind her. As they left the chamber, she could hear the aliens already discussing other business, humanity dismissed and forgotten like yesterday's garbage. But as they walked back down the long hallway toward their shuttle, Claire's mind was racing. These creatures thought they knew humanity. They thought humans were weak and primitive and harmless. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The emergency meeting on Earth was not going well. President Mary Johnson sat at the head of a long table in the underground command center. Around her, the leaders of humanity's colonies argued loudly about what to do next. The room was hot and stuffy, filled with the smell of too many worried people in one place. General Chris Taylor slammed his fist on the table. "They're lying! This whole story about galaxy-eating machines is just another way to control us. First they attack our bases, now they want us to believe they're our saviors." Dr. Lisa Park, the head of Earth's Alien Studies Department, shook her head. "The evidence supports their claims, General. Our long-range sensors have detected the anomalies they described. Entire star systems have gone dark in the outer rim." "That could be anything," Taylor shot back. "Solar flares, natural disasters, equipment failures. We can't base our entire strategy on alien propaganda." Captain Susan Walsh, who represented the Colonial Defense Forces, looked tired. She had been awake for 36 hours coordinating the evacuation efforts. "My pilots have seen what Zephyrian technology can do. If there's something out there that even they can't handle, we need to take it seriously." President Johnson raised her hand for quiet. "The question isn't whether we believe them. The question is what we do about it. Admiral Kane, what's the status of the evacuation?" Admiral Lisa Kane activated a holographic display showing the 12 colony worlds. Red indicators showed areas where evacuation was proceeding. Yellow showed areas where people were packing but moving slowly. Orange showed areas where people were refusing to leave. "It's not good, Madam President. We've evacuated maybe 30% of the outer colonies. The rest are either unable to leave quickly or refusing to go. Some colony governors are saying they won't force their people to abandon their homes." On the display, Jake could see that most of the indicators were yellow or orange. Only a few showed the green. That meant successful evacuation. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Defiance, Jake Morrison was having his own crisis meeting. He had called together the senior officers from the human ships in the sector. The conference room was crowded with captains and commanders, all of them looking confused and angry. Captain Rachel Davis of the cargo ship Far Trader spoke first. "My crew is asking me why we should trust aliens who were shooting at us just last week. They want to know why we should abandon everything we've built." Commander Bill Hayes of the patrol ship Guardian nodded in agreement. "The mining crews are especially upset. They've spent decades building infrastructure in the asteroid belts. If we leave now, we lose everything." Jake understood their feelings. He had spent the last 2 hours reading reports from the colonies. Families were being torn apart by the evacuation order. Some members wanted to leave immediately, others refused to go. Children were crying as their parents argued about abandoning the only homes they had ever known. Dr. Alex Carter entered the room with a datapad full of new information. "Jake, I've been analyzing the sensor data from our long-range stations. The Zephyrians were telling the truth about one thing. Something is definitely happening in the outer rim." Alex activated the room's main display. It showed a map of nearby star systems. Several systems that should have been showing normal electromagnetic signatures were completely dark. "These 3 systems went quiet in the last 6 months, Alex explained. "No radio signals, no ship traffic, no energy emissions at all. It's like they just stopped existing." Captain Davis leaned forward. "Could be natural phenomena. Stars sometimes have quiet periods." "Not like this," Alex replied. "I compared the data to our historical records. These systems have been monitored for 50 years. They've never gone completely silent before." Jake studied the display. The dark systems formed a rough line pointing toward human space. If something was moving through that area, consuming everything in its path, it would reach the outer human. Colonies in about 18 months. Exactly what Vextai had said. There's something else, Alex continued. I've been monitoring Zephyrian fleet movements. They're not just positioning ships around our colonies. They're building serious defensive formations, military positions designed to fight a major battle. Commander Hayes crossed his arms. Maybe they're planning to attack us once we're all concentrated in one place. No, Jake said slowly. They're planning to defend us. But they need us to cooperate, not just comply. Before anyone could respond, Lieutenant Ben Rogers burst into the room. Sir, we're getting priority messages from all the colony worlds. The governors are calling an emergency vote. Jake activated the communication system. Governor Pete Jackson's face appeared on the screen, broadcast from New Eden. Behind him, Jake could see crowds of people gathered in the colony's main square. People of the human colonies, Governor Jackson began. We face a choice that will determine the future of our species. We can follow alien orders and abandon everything we've built, or we can stand our ground and face whatever comes as free human beings. Other governors joined the broadcast. Laura Mitchell from Harmony Station spoke next. We've spent 20 years making these worlds livable. We've built homes, schools, hospitals. These aren't just colonies anymore. They're our homes. The vote was simple. Each colony would decide for itself whether to evacuate or stay. The results came in over the next hour. New Eden voted to stay by a margin of 3-1. Harmony Station voted to stay unanimously. The mining worlds in the Kepler Belt voted to stay by even larger margins. Only 3 of the 12 colonies voted to evacuate. Even those were close votes, with nearly half the population wanting to remain. Jake watched the results with mixed feelings. Part of him was proud of humanity's refusal to give up. Part of him was terrified that they were making a terrible mistake. President Johnson's face appeared on the emergency broadcast network. She looked tired but determined. The people have spoken. Humanity will not abandon our colonies based on alien demands. We will defend our homes and our freedom. The reaction from the Zephyrian fleet was immediate. Commander Vextai's image appeared on every human communication channel simultaneously. His crystal skin was pulsing rapidly, the lights underneath flashing in patterns that hurt to look at. You do not understand the magnitude of what approaches, Vextai said. His harmonic voice was strained, like several people trying to stay calm at once. Your bravery will become suicide. The Devourers do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They simply consume. But humanity had made its choice. Across 12 worlds, people began preparing for a fight they didn't fully understand against an enemy they had never seen. On New Eden, Governor Jackson organized volunteer militias. Farmers and shopkeepers practiced with hunting rifles and improvised weapons. Children too young to fight helped dig defensive positions around the major cities. On Harmony Station, engineer Laura Mitchell led teams that began converting agricultural equipment into weapons. Terraforming machinery that had been used to create atmosphere was modified to generate electromagnetic pulses. Irrigation systems were converted into missile launchers. In the Kepler Belt, the mining crews began the most ambitious project of all. They started moving asteroids into defensive positions, creating a maze of obstacles that any attacking fleet would have to navigate. Hidden weapon caches were built inside hollowed-out rocks. Captain Rachel Davis summed up the feeling in a message to Earth Command. We've spent 200 years learning to survive in the vacuum of space. We've built homes on airless rocks and turned poisonous atmospheres into gardens. We're not about to stop now because some machines want to eat us. The Zephyrians found themselves in a situation they had never encountered before. Their overwhelming force was designed to compel quick surrender, not to fight a distributed defense across multiple star systems. Their tactics assumed that conquered species would either submit completely or fight conventional battles that could be won quickly. But humanity was preparing to fight a different kind of war. A war of stubbornness and improvisation. A war where the defenders would rather die than give up their homes. Commander Vextai requested another meeting with the human leadership. This time, he seemed desperate rather than confident. His message was simple. Your refusal to retreat has created chaos in our defensive plans. We cannot protect scattered human populations while maintaining our own battle formations against the Devourers. You are forcing us to choose between saving your species and saving our own. Jake looked at the message and felt a grim satisfaction. For the first time since the Zephyrians had arrived, humanity was the one making demands instead of following orders. The real battle was still coming, but now it would be fought on human terms. The message went out across human space at exactly noon, Earth time. Every radio, every computer screen, every communication device carried the same broadcast. Jake Morrison's voice reached 12 worlds and hundreds of ships scattered across 3 star systems. People of humanity, Jake began, speaking from the bridge of the UES Defiance. We have heard the Zephyrian warnings. We have seen their evidence of a threat that could destroy all life in our galaxy. We believe this danger is real, but we will not abandon our homes to hide behind Earth's defenses. Jake paused, looking out at the stars where human and alien fleets waited in an uneasy standoff. If the galaxy needs humanity's stubborn refusal to give up, then they will get it. But on our terms, not theirs. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. On New Eden, crowds gathered in the streets to cheer. On Harmony Station, work crews stopped their jobs to listen to the broadcast. In the mining stations of the Kepler Belt, tough asteroid workers who had spent their lives fighting the vacuum of space nodded in approval. But the most important reaction came from the Zephyrian fleet. Commander Vextai's response appeared on human communication channels within minutes. His crystal skin was pulsing rapidly, and the harmonic quality of his voice seemed strained. Captain Morrison, you do not understand what you are doing. The Devourers will be here in 15 months, not 18. Our scouts have detected their advanced ships moving faster than expected. Your scattered defenses will be destroyed one colony at a time. Jake stood firm. Then help us build better defenses. Share your technology with us. Fight alongside us instead of trying to control us. Impossible. Your species lacks the discipline to use our weapons safely. You would be as dangerous to yourselves as to the enemy. Then we'll use our own weapons, Jake replied. And we'll use them in ways your enemies won't expect. The conversation ended there, but Jake knew it wasn't over. The Zephyrians needed humanity's help as much as humans needed theirs. The question was whether they could find a way to work together before the real enemy arrived. Over the next week, something unexpected began to happen. Across the human colonies, people started preparing for war in ways that surprised even themselves. The preparations weren't following any military manual or strategic plan. Instead, each world was developing its own unique approach to defense. On New Eden, Governor Pete Jackson organized what he called community defense groups. These weren't traditional military units. Instead, they were groups of neighbors who worked together based on their skills. Farmers formed units that specialized in moving through rural areas unseen. Factory workers created teams that could quickly build improvised weapons and barriers. Even restaurant cooks formed groups that could feed large numbers of people during a siege. Dr. Lisa Park arrived from Earth to help coordinate the scientific response. She was amazed by what she found. "The colonists aren't just preparing to fight," she reported back to Earth Command. "They're preparing to fight dirty. They're planning ambushes, hit-and-run attacks, sabotage operations. They're treating this like guerrilla warfare against an occupying army." On Harmony Station, engineer Laura Mitchell had turned the entire terraforming operation into a weapon factory. The massive atmospheric processors that had taken decades to build were being converted into electromagnetic pulse generators. The irrigation systems that watered the colony's crops were being modified to launch projectiles at high speed. "We're not trying to build conventional weapons," Laura explained to a visiting delegation from Earth. "We're building things the enemy won't recognize as weapons until it's too late. They might be able to adapt to energy beams and missile attacks, but how do you adapt to having your electronics fried by what looks like a weather control system?" The most ambitious preparations were happening in the Kepler belt. The asteroid. Miners had decades of experience moving massive chunks of rock through space. Now they were using those skills to create a defensive maze that stretched across millions of cubic kilometers. Captain Tony Stevens, who commanded the mining vessel, Rockhound, was leading the effort. He had survived 3 cave-ins and 2 reactor explosions during his mining career. The prospect of fighting alien machines didn't scare him nearly as much as it should have. "We're not building a wall," Tony explained to anyone who would listen. "We're building a trap. When those devourer ships come through here, they're going to find rocks everywhere. Some of those rocks will be empty, some will have weapons hidden inside. Some will be rigged to explode. They won't know which is which until they start getting blown up." The work was dangerous and exhausting. Moving asteroids required precise calculations and perfect timing. One mistake could destroy an entire mining station. But the miners pushed forward with the same stubborn determination that had brought them to the asteroid belt in the first place. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian fleet watched these preparations with growing confusion. Their military advisors had analyzed human defensive capabilities and found them completely inadequate by normal standards. Human weapons were primitive, human armor was weak, human spacecraft were slow and poorly armed, but the humans weren't building normal defenses. They were creating something that had never been seen before in galactic warfare, a defense based on chaos, improvisation, and the complete refusal to follow standard military logic. Commander Vextai called for another meeting with human leadership. This time, the conversation took place aboard the neutral trading station. At Crossroads, a small facility that served merchant ships traveling between systems. President Johnson, Admiral Kane, Jake Morrison, and Dr. Carter represented humanity. "Your defensive preparations are tactically unsound," Vextai said without any greeting. "You are scattering your forces across multiple worlds. You are using untrained civilians instead of professional soldiers. You are building weapons that violate basic principles of military engineering." "Good," Jake replied. "If we can't figure out what we're doing, maybe the devourers can't either." Vexatai's crystal skin pulsed in patterns that Dr. Carter was learning to recognize as frustration. The devourers adapt by analyzing successful tactics used against them, but they expect those tactics to follow logical patterns. Your approach is so illogical that it might actually work. President Johnson leaned forward. "Are you saying you want to help us now?" "I am saying that we need each other," Vextai admitted. "Your chaotic approach to warfare might be effective against the devourers, but you will need our technology and our experience to have any chance of success. Admiral Kane spoke up. What kind of help are you offering? Limited technology sharing. Basic shield generators for your largest settlements. Enhanced communication systems so your scattered forces can coordinate. Most importantly, we will provide intelligence about devourer tactics and capabilities. In exchange for what? Jake asked. Joint command structure. Human forces operating under Zephyrian strategic guidance. Jake shook his head. No deal. We'll take your technology and your intelligence. But we fight this war our way. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Vextai's harmonic voice spoke again. Your way has never been tested against an enemy like this. Your way has been tested for 50 years, Dr. Carter pointed out, and you've been losing. After several hours of negotiation, they reached a compromise. The Zephyrians would provide technology and intelligence. Human forces would maintain independent command, but would coordinate their actions with Zephyrian fleet movements. Most importantly, both sides would share information about any new tactics that proved effective against the Devourers. As the meeting ended, Jake felt a mixture of hope and terror. Humanity was about to face the greatest threat in galactic history. They would do it with improvised weapons, untrained soldiers, and tactics that no military academy would approve of, but they would do it as free human beings, fighting to protect their homes and their families. The real battle was still months away, but the alliance that would fight it was finally taking shape. It wasn't the alliance anyone had planned for, but it might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UHS Retribution and watched the alien armada through the main screen. 2,000 enemy ships surrounded the battered USS Liberty like wolves circling wounded prey. Smoke was pouring from the Liberty's hull, and its shields were flickering weakly. The small exploration ship had fought bravely, but it was clearly about to die. All ships, decloak and take positions, Kate ordered into her communication headset. Around the Retribution, 49 other human warships shimmered into view like ghosts becoming solid. The Ghost Fleet had arrived in Sector 7 Alpha completely undetected. Every ship was sleek and dangerous, built with technology that the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Ben Rogers of the UHS Defiance appeared on Kate's communication screen. Admiral, all ships report ready for combat. Weapons are charged and targeting systems are locked on enemy vessels. Kate studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was massive, but they were spread out and confused by the sudden appearance of human reinforcements. Their formations were loose, and many ships were still focused on attacking the Liberty instead of defending themselves. Commander Hayes, what is our tactical assessment? Kate asked her tactical officer. Commander Linda Hayes worked quickly at her station, analyzing the enemy fleet composition. Admiral, we are facing ships from 6 different alien species. Zephyrians make up about half the fleet, but I also see Corvin destroyers, Thalan battlecruisers, and Nexus fighters. Their technology is at least 20 years behind ours, Kate smiled coldly. Perfect. Communications, open a channel to Admiral Thorne. Admiral Vex Thorne appeared on the main screen. His forearms were moving frantically as he tried to coordinate his scattered fleet. When he saw Kate, his expression showed confusion and worry. Human Admiral, withdraw your ships immediately. This sector is under Galactic Council authority. You are interfering with a lawful military operation. Kate's voice was calm and deadly when she replied. Admiral Thorne, you attacked a peaceful exploration vessel without provocation. You ordered the extermination of 43 innocent people. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was assuming humanity would not respond. You cannot defeat 2,000 ships with 50, Thorn replied, but his voice did not sound as confident as before. Watch us, Kate said simply. All human ships execute Pattern Delta, no mercy. The Ghost Fleet attacked with precision that amazed even their own crews. The UHS Retribution fired its main weapons at a group of Zephyrian cruisers. The kinetic penetrators moved so fast, they seemed to teleport from the ship to their targets. When they hit, the alien cruisers simply exploded into clouds of metal and fire. Captain Tony Miller of the UHS Vengeance used gravitational manipulation weapons against a squadron of enemy fighters. The small alien ships were crushed like insects as artificial gravity fields compressed them into tiny balls of twisted metal. The UHS Defiance launched a spread of plasma torpedoes that burned through enemy shield systems like they were made of paper. Captain Rogers watched in satisfaction as 12 alien destroyers died in the first few seconds of combat. All ships, advance and engage, Kate ordered. Show them what human engineering can accomplish. The Ghost Fleet moved through, the alien armada like sharks through a school of fish. Every human ship was faster, more maneuverable, and more heavily armed than anything the aliens had ever seen. Weapons that the enemy could not understand tore through their defenses with ease. Admiral Thorne's flagship, the massive dreadnought, that had seemed so impressive just minutes before, found itself under attack by 3 human ships at once. The UHS Retribution, UHS Vengeance, and UHS Defiance surrounded the alien command ship and opened fire simultaneously. Impossible, Thorne screamed over the communication channel. Our shields should be able to stop any weapon in the galaxy. Your shields were designed to stop weapons from this galaxy, Kate replied, as her ship's weapons carved deep gouges in the enemy flagship's hull. Our weapons are something new. The alien fleet tried to fight back, but their coordination was falling apart. Ships from different species could not communicate effectively with each other. Their weapons could barely scratch the advanced armor of the human vessels. Many alien captains began to panic as they watched their comrades die around them. Captain Lisa Carter of the UHS Thunder used electromagnetic pulse weapons to disable an entire wing of Corvin destroyers. The alien ships drifted helplessly through space as their electrical systems failed completely. Captain Mark Johnson of the UHS Lightning deployed experimental nanite swarms that ate through enemy hull plating like acid. 3 Thalon battlecruisers found themselves with holes appearing in their armor faster than they could repair them. The battle that should have been a massacre of humans became a demonstration of human superiority. In 20 minutes, the Ghost Fleet had destroyed or disabled over 300 alien ships. The remaining vessels began to break formation and try to escape. Admiral, Commander Hayes reported, enemy fleet cohesion is collapsing. Multiple ships are attempting to withdraw. Kate opened a channel to the entire battlefield. Attention all alien vessels. You came here to destroy one human ship. Instead, you have learned what happens when you threaten humanity. Any ship that attempts to leave this sector will be destroyed. Surrender now or join your dead comrades. Many alien ships immediately stopped trying to escape and sent surrender signals. Others continued to fight, but their resistance was hopeless. The human ships hunted them down one by one with ruthless efficiency. Admiral Thorne's flagship was still fighting, but barely. Half of its weapons were destroyed, and fires were burning throughout the massive ship. Thorne himself appeared on the communication screen one more time, his uniform torn and blood running down his face. "This is impossible," he said desperately. "Humans are a primitive species. You have only been in space for 50 years. How do you have such advanced technology? Kate looked at the defeated alien admiral with contempt. We have been preparing for this day since we first learned that the galaxy was full of species that would try to destroy us. Every human ship, every weapon, every piece of technology was designed with one purpose: to ensure that humanity survives and thrives among the stars. Please, Thorn begged, spare my ship. I surrender. Your surrender is noted, Kate replied. But first, you will send a message to every government in the galaxy. Tell them what happened here today. Tell them that attacking humans was the biggest mistake your species ever made. From the bridge of the battered Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison watched the impossible battle unfold around him. His small ship had held out against 2,000 alien vessels for hours. Now, 50 human warships had arrived and turned the tide completely. Captain, said Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez, Admiral Sullivan is requesting permission to come aboard and check on our condition. Jake smiled for the first time in hours. Permission granted. And Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the cavalry arrived just in time. The Ghost Fleet had revealed itself to the galaxy, and the message was clear. Humanity was not the weak, primitive species that everyone had believed. They were the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. Jake Morrison paced around the conference room of his ship. The walls were covered with screens showing tactical data and star maps. Across from him sat Dr. Alex Carter and Colonel Amy Foster. They were waiting for Commander Vextai to return. Their call. It had been 6 hours since the Zephyrian commander first contacted them. In that time, Jake had received dozens of reports from the colony worlds. The evacuation was not going well. Many people were refusing to leave their homes. Others were packing slowly, taking time to gather belongings they had spent years collecting. The Zephyrians could force us to leave, Amy said, checking her weapon for the third time. Their ships are big enough to carry our entire population. Why are they waiting for us to cooperate? Alex looked up from his data pad. Maybe they can't force us. Maybe they need us to want to fight alongside them. Fight who? Jake asked. They haven't told us anything about these supposed enemies. Before anyone could answer, the main screen flickered to life. Commander Vextai appeared, his crystal skin glowing brighter than before. Behind him, Jake could see the interior of a Zephyrian ship. It looked like the inside of a giant gem, with walls that sparkled and pulsed with light. Captain Morrison, Vextai said in his strange harmonic voice. You requested more information about the threat we face. I will show you, but you must understand that what you see cannot be undone. Knowledge brings responsibility. Jake looked at his crew, then back at the alien commander. Show us. The screen changed. Instead of Vextai's face, Jake was looking at a star map of the galaxy. It was beautiful, with billions of stars twinkling like diamonds against the black of space. But as Jake watched, something was wrong. Large sections of the map were turning red. This is the galaxy as it was 50 years ago, Vextai's voice explained. Every point of light represents a star system. Every system contained planets with life. Some had simple creatures. Others had advanced civilizations like yours and mine. The red areas grew larger as Jake watched. Entire sectors of the galaxy were changing color, spreading like an infection. Where the red touched, the stars seemed to go dark. This is the galaxy today, Vextai continued. The red areas represent systems that have been consumed by the Devourers. No life remains in those sectors. No planets, no asteroids, no space stations. Everything has been converted into more Devourer ships. Alex leaned forward in his chair. Converted? What do you mean converted? The screen changed again. Now Jake was looking at recordings from Zephyrian ships. He saw massive black vessels that looked nothing like any ship he had ever seen. They were geometric shapes that seemed to absorb light. As Jake watched, one of the dark ships approached an asteroid. The asteroid simply disappeared, and the dark ship grew larger. The Devourers are not alive in any way we understand, HFY explained. They are machines, but not like the computers, you know. They consume all matter and convert it into more of themselves. They learn from everything they destroy. They adapt to every weapon used against them. More images flashed on the screen. Jake saw entire planets being stripped down to their cores. He saw fleets of ships being consumed and rebuilt into more Devourer vessels. Most horrible of all, he saw cities full of people simply vanishing as the dark machines passed over them. How many? Amy asked quietly. How many civilizations have they destroyed? We have confirmed the destruction of 473 spacefaring species, HFY replied. The number of planet-bound civilizations is impossible to calculate. Trillions of beings have been consumed. Jake felt sick. The numbers were too big to understand. Entire species gone. Planets that had taken billions of years to develop life, stripped bare in days. We have fought them for 50 years, HFY continued. The hegemony represents the combined forces of 12 surviving species. We have tried every strategy, every weapon, every tactic we could devise. Nothing works. They adapt too quickly. The owl. Screen showed battles between Zephyrian fleets and the Dark Devourer ships. Jake watched as energy beams from the crystal ships struck the geometric vessels. For a moment, the attack seemed effective. Then the Devourer ships changed, their hulls shifting and adapting. The same weapons that had worked minutes before now had no effect. But you think humans can fight them somehow? Alex asked. What makes us different? Your species does something that no other species in the galaxy does, HFY replied. When faced with impossible odds, when logic demands retreat, when every calculation shows certain defeat, you do not calculate, you do not retreat. You adapt in ways that cannot be predicted. Jake thought about the reports he had received from the colonies. People refusing to leave their homes even when faced with overwhelming alien forces. Miners and farmers and engineers, all insisting they would find a way to fight. You think our stubbornness is a weapon? Jake asked. 3 months ago, a single human cargo ship encountered a Devourer scout probe near your frontier, HFY said. The pilot, Captain Tony Stevens, should have run. His ship had no weapons, no shields, no chance of survival. The screen showed a grainy recording from a ship's camera. Jake could see a small human freighter facing one of the dark geometric ships. The Devourer vessel was 10 times larger than the cargo ship. Instead of running, Captain Stevens rammed his ship into the Devourer probe, HFY continued. The collision destroyed both vessels, but more importantly, it created a pattern the Devourers could not predict. For the first time in 50 years, one of their ships was destroyed by tactics they could not adapt to. Jake stared at the recording. Tony Stevens. He had heard that name before. Stevens had been listed as missing, presumed dead. No one knew he had encountered an alien vessel. The Devourers learn by analyzing successful tactics used against them. Vexti explained. But they cannot learn from pure stubborn refusal to follow logical behavior. Your species represents the only hope we have found. Amy crossed her arms. So you want to use us as suicide troops? Send us to ram our ships into theirs? No, Vexti replied. We want to teach you to fight, but first you must accept that you cannot win by running away. The Devourers have already detected your colonies. They will reach this sector in 18 months. If humanity scatters across the galaxy, you will be hunted down one group at a time. Alex was studying his data pad again. The evacuation order. You're not trying to protect us from yourselves. You're trying to concentrate our population so we can defend ourselves. Yes, but your people must accept discipline. They must learn to work with technology beyond their current understanding. They must trust guidance from species who have fought this enemy before. The conference room was quiet for a long moment. Jake looked at the star map still showing on the screen. The red areas seemed to be growing even as he watched. What happens if we refuse? Jake asked. What if humanity decides to scatter and hide instead of fighting? Vexiti's crystal skin pulsed more slowly, the lights dimming. Then in 18 months, when the main Devourer fleet arrives, they will consume Earth and every human colony one by one, and the galaxy will lose its only hope of stopping them. Jake thought about the families on New Eden, the terraforming crews on Harmony Station, the miners in the Kepler Belt, all of them just trying to build better lives for their children. You're asking us to trust you, Jake said. But you've been threatening us for months. You've destroyed our military bases. You've demanded our surrender. We have been testing you, Vexiti admitted. We needed to see how your species responds to overwhelming force. We needed to know if you would fight or run. You have passed that test. The alien commander paused, his harmonic voice becoming quieter. But now comes the real test, Captain Morrison. Your species must choose to stand and fight, not because you are forced to, but because you understand what will happen if you do not. The transmission ended, leaving Jake and his crew alone with the terrible knowledge they had gained. Outside their ship, the Zephyrian fleet waited in the darkness. Behind them, human colonies struggled with the decision to abandon their homes. And somewhere in the dark between stars, an enemy beyond imagination was already moving toward them. Jake knew that everything had changed. The war they thought they were fighting was just the beginning. The real battle was still coming.